Thank you, Robin. Good morning, everybody. Let me just see if I can share my screen. Hopefully, you'll be seeing that. So yeah, good morning, everybody, and welcome. So today we're gonna walk through the SAP Cloud Platform and where to start. The agenda kind of looks a little bit like this. So we'll just give you a little background into us. Then we'll talk about the SAP Cloud Platform, what it is, why companies are starting to use the SAP Cloud Platform, and from our point of view, we thought we'd share with you, where to start, because the Cloud Platform has so much capability. Sometimes it muddies a lot of the rationale behind it. So we'll kind of break it down and really dumb it down and talk through where to start. We're going to show you some apps, and we're going to show you some services available in the cloud, and just some really nice examples of where you could start. And then finally, we'll take you through kind of our methodology on how we build apps and how we build some of these services, and then finally, yeah, we'll dive into the Cloud Platform and we'll show you some of this stuff. So with me today in the room, yeah, apologies for my picture. Why do I look bigger than everybody else? That's the question I'm asking myself. But that's me on the left-hand side, Dan, and I've got Kyle with me, who's part of the design team, and I've got two cloud architects with me. So I've got Sab and Vic as well. So they're part of some of the team here at Bluestonex. Just a little bit about us then. So we've done a few webinars now around innovation and user experience. We're still kind of in that startup mode of companies. Started in 2012. The X in Bluestonex is really about user experience and innovation. And we are an SAP partner where we build things. We also are a service partner, so we will do the consulting around application development and apps. And we are also a partner for Partner Managed Cloud, which I'll explain a little bit in a while. So we're coming to you today from Shropshire, but we do have a back office in India as well. As we explain to people what's different about us, well, we do employ designers, so it's not just about the technology. We do have a real interest in design and employee designers as well that don't really have any background in SAP technology. In terms of how the business revenue and how we kind of split as an organization, it's pretty straightforward, really. 50% of our revenue model is kind of based on the SAP Cloud Platform and building apps, mobile applications as an example. And the other 50% of our kind of business really is around products that we take to market where we see gaps within SAP, one of which are more, I wouldn't say famous, but our more commonly known product is Maestro, and this is to manage master data in and out of SAP. So that's how the business is kind of structured. This is where we're coming to you today from. So this is our home, the church in Shropshire, and essentially why we purchased the building really was to become a design centre for application development and mobile applications. Yeah, interestingly, in the top floor of the building, we're opening a usability lab. So this was the refurb of the building upstairs, and we'll talk about usability and human-centered design and all these types of things along with the cloud platform. But upstairs, really, we've got a couple of labs in the church. It's a big open plan design center, but it's there for usability testing, and we'll cover a little bit of that because it's really important that you do some of this stuff when you start getting into cloud platform technologies, especially around user experience. In terms of the services and the tech, I'm not going to go deep in this stuff. We'll talk through design thinking, especially regarding innovation. But what we're going to show you today is a mixture of technologies on the cloud. We're going to focus on SAP UI5, some screen personas stuff, or commonly known as Slipstream. We'll explain that. We'll show you why this is brilliant to use on the cloud platform, as well as other stuff. So Copilot is your kind of Siri and Alexa for SAP, and you've obviously got now other things around user experience to do with conversational UI. In terms of those services and how we deliver these services, Yeah, again, as you'd expect, you have the design thinking and build phase, but we also do things like health checks. So we'll come and review applications. We'll do critique on design that people have done, and obviously we do the full end-to-end. So, and we deliver these services, whether it be on-prem or whether it's a cloud platform managed by us as a partner, or maybe you bought your own SAP Cloud Platform. So we cover these services across all of them, or you might just simply visit the SAP App Center and download applications that we have produced there as well. So in terms of UX, we cover quite a range of services. So moving on from that then, so just to talk about some of these trends out in the marketplace really, and where our focus is. So there's a bunch of stuff, and this is where I think the SAP Cloud Platform can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. There is so much stuff in here. So we've just kind of picked out some of the capabilities here just to explain some of these trends, you know, like big data or cloud or augmented reality, mobile, machine learning, all this stuff. These are all kind of capabilities, and it's probably part of our focus. Interestingly, some of the things that probably aren't valued as much is the design as a service, which is kind of, again, fairly new, but it's certainly a trend in the marketplace. And why we talk about cloud platform and user experience, because it's a really nice kind of place to start. So I just want to put this one out there first of all. So, and this is a myth, so it's a myth buster, okay? So myth one, everybody thinks that innovation, you need to be on the latest SAP version, okay? And that's not true. We've even seen people using the SAP Cloud Platform to connect to very old versions of SAP and obviously non-SAP systems as well. So it is a platform, and we'll kind of explain what it is, but hopefully the point is you don't need to be on S/4HANA to do a lot of this stuff. If you are, brilliant, but it shouldn't be a blocker. And that is the point behind it. So, Cloud Platform. Yeah, so I'm not going to read it parrot fashion here. It's an enterprise platform, and it's there for innovation, integration, and extending apps. And hopefully you'll see the kind of benefits behind this. Our kind of view on it, and how we explain it simply, it is that agile layer, and it'll enable you, the customer, if you have that skill. And by the way, in terms of skill, there is so much material out there and so much documentation out there. It is, you know, realistic to say you could do a lot of this stuff yourself, or you co-innovate with partners like us. So that cloud platform is the agile layer. And as I say, the great thing about it is you can come up with entirely new business processes that does not disrupt your core kind of systems. And that's really important. So you can do some really nice, innovative stuff without having to unpick what you've got within your core ERP. So that's kind of our view in very simple terms. We're going to run another session like this, and we're going to go deep on some of these topics. But that's just a kind of opening on how our view of the SAP Cloud Platform is. And some of the benefits then regarding cloud, there's some obvious ones here. You know, user experience transformation is one, but there's a whole bunch of kind of integration, which again will show you some of this stuff. But there's also a lot of pre-delivered or pre-packaged content on the cloud platform. Again, we'll share with you. So our drive from day one, really, even when we formed the company some time ago, our end goal was a unified entry point and a unified user experience for enterprise users. And the cloud platform is exactly that platform for us, because it will give us a consistent user interface irrespective of what system I could be using. And that's important. That's the holy grail, really. But hopefully some of these benefits you'll see as we walk through. In terms of capabilities within the cloud, again, I can send links out after the webinar. some of these capability categories. The bits in orange are the stuff that really, that's the kind of thing that we're going to be just going through with you today, and it's probably areas that we probably focus more on. But there is a ton of stuff, and that's where we think sometimes people get maybe a little bit overawed by, you know, what's in the box of tricks. It's a huge amount of capability, and sometimes people kind of struggle where to start. So in terms of the main use cases that we see, it's fairly obvious. It might be around extending some of the stuff that you've got on-prem in cloud. It might purely be around, you know, a different user experience, or it purely is a development platform where you start building kind of SAP and non-SAP integrated applications. So those are the main use cases when we put the cloud platform into context of kind of, you know, what does this mean, and where can I start? You've probably seen some of this examples like this before. There is already a lot of kind of cloud applications out there, and you can see there on the left-hand side there's some applications there. You know, SuccessFactors being a classic one, and then obviously you've got different scenarios here around that. There might be SAP apps, partner apps, or third-party applications, or apps that you've built yourself. And we're going to go through a little bit of this landscape and what it looks like, because again, it can get quite complicated. There are some really good courses on the SAP Cloud Platform. OpenSAP run a couple of really nice ones. It starts off quite simple, and it will talk about things like Cloud Foundry and Neo as examples. Obviously, we have this kind of multi-cloud scenario as well now. So we've got the different types of service providers in here, like Amazon, Azure. All that stuff is kind of, it's broken up. I'm not going to go through it in detail today. This is more about the capabilities and where would you start with the SAP Cloud Platform. Okay, so this slide really is just to talk a little bit about the kind of architecture. There's a lot of stuff going on in that slide, but essentially, in the middle section, we have these things called sub-accounts, which we'll come on to, and you've obviously got your back-end server. So, you know, SAP ECC, for example, or an S4, and you're typically connecting via Cloud Connector to your global accounts and tenants in the cloud. Again, I won't go into too much of the detail around what's called OData provisioning. Again, there's different options. I've got the technical team with us here. If people want to explore that and got questions on it, we can go into it, but I wasn't intending showing that. In terms of our environment and what we show people, just to keep it really simple, what we have obviously, we've got back-end systems. Okay, so it might be SAP, and that might be like a 4-tier landscape. And there might be other systems. It might be a separate instance of APO or CRM, or it might be a Salesforce. It could be whatever system that you have for your kind of on-prem or even cloud systems. But your back-end systems are there. And typically what we would do is connect those back-end systems to separate sub-accounts. So we would map a dev to a dev box in the cloud, or a sub-account in the cloud. And when you start spinning up these tenants and services, you kind of need to think about the regions as well, because you want to make sure you've kind of got DR capabilities and all that. The cloud manages that really well. Also, the SLAs within the SAP Cloud Platform are very, very good, but you do need to think about it in terms of the architecture. Now, what we're going to show you today is this example where we have an on-prem connected to a cloud environment, but what we've also added in here is a service, and it's called a HANA DB service, and that is predominantly used for storing information that you wouldn't typically store in your ERP or your CRM or your on-prem system. So we're going to show you a cloud environment consuming different services and obviously connecting to a back-end system. So we're gonna go through this in our example, but hopefully you get the idea. It doesn't really need to be that complicated. Now, just to touch on this, because we're going to just give you a little bit of a demo of some of the nice things that you can do with some of the products. So I wanted to jump to this slide. So another myth, okay? The word Fiori. SAP have done a great job kind of marketing the word, but I think it's got a lot of confusion along the way. So SAP Fiori is not a technology. It is a design standard. And that's what we'd say. It's a design standard with a set of guidelines. Okay, so the two technologies we predominantly use would be SAP UI5, and there would also be SAP Screen Personas and Slipstream, which we're gonna show you both of this along with other services in the cloud, because it's a really nice place to start. So the key thing is with these two technologies, if you apply Fiori guidelines to it, the apps themselves should be consistent. So irrespective of what technology is behind the bonnet, they should look and feel exactly the same. Okay, and we think this is a really, really nice place to kind of start. And then we're always kind of posed the question, well, which technology should I use at what point? And this is a lot simpler in terms of a diagram. But if you can imagine, there are standard apps. There are standard SAP UI5 or standard Fiori apps in the Fiori library. So if there are apps there that do what you want, you would just deploy them. Now, clearly, you could deploy, if you already have Fiori in place, you could just go onto that SAP Fiori library, review those apps, and then you can kind of download it, and then you can deploy it. Okay. You could also modify those standard apps if they've kind of got they've got points in which you can kind of extend those applications. So if you can do that again and it gives you what you need, yeah, why wouldn't you extend them via Web IDE? And again, we'll talk about Web IDE and deploy. Now, this is the thing that people kind of miss, in our opinion, quite a lot. So if within your back-end system, and I'm talking predominantly ERP, that there is business logic there that you just want to reuse and you perhaps just want to make a mobile application, then you can use the other technology, which is the SAP Screen Personas and Slipstream. And that's important. A lot of people kind of miss this point. When we've showed it people, they've gone, oh my God, that's brilliant. It's 20 times quicker to develop this way. Yeah, why didn't I know about this? And this is a kind of a really one of the best kept secrets within SAP. However, if you need offline applications, and by offline, I mean you're in a cave or you're down a well or you're at the bottom of the ocean where you have no 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, any of that stuff, and you need offline, then if you need offline, you would typically go custom UI5. So that, even though this is a kind of, a process that we would go through, it's quite important because people just get obsessed with building SAP UI5 apps, spend a lot of time and energy and money building them, whereas there are other methods. And again, I won't go through the detail. We all know what SAP UI5 looks like. This is kind of what it is, positives and negatives. The negative for us would be sometimes you need more technical skill, okay? And also the standard apps, you don't always get what you as a business actually need. But that's that. Now with Slipstream, again, lots of positives. One of the negatives is you can't do offline capability. But having said that, there's quite a low percentage of businesses that actually need true offline services. But those are the two differences. I won't walk through it. We'll show it you instead. I think it's just easier. But another myth just to put out here, Fiori UX will replace most, if not all, GUI screens when I move to S4. From our experience, no. Yes, there is a bigger catalog of Fiori applications there, but again, it will need tweaking depending on the level of customization you've got. But it isn't just that one day I'm on ECC, next day I'm on S4, and I just get Fiori everything. That's not right. GUI is still there, and GUI is predominantly the kind of the main entry point, which is surprising, but that is fact. And that is why the SAP Screen Personas is the fastest way to deliver the Fiori UX. So the biggest adopter of that technology is probably S4 customers, because they've moved to S4. They expect a lot of SAP UI5 applications. They don't get them, so therefore they switch on screen personas, and they can very, very quickly start delivering apps. And even by doing nothing, just by activating some of these services, it gives it a lot nicer look and feel. So we'll come back to cloud. I just want to explain what this slipstream is, because I think it's an important message, certainly in terms of where to start. So I'm going to just hand over the controls to Kyle. If I can find how to do that. So Robin, are you able to give Kyle the presentation rights just for a couple of minutes?
Yep. I've passed it over now.
Thank you. So hopefully you're seeing Kyle's screen. So it's kind of got some dashboarding information there. Now this is a kind of custom report with some custom chart types. So Slipstream Engine resides within your ERP. Yeah, it's a service that you would activate, and as you can see there, it's kind of it's web GUI. Yeah, but it's rendering a lot of the controls in UI5. So I'll just let Kyle just explain what you can do with it really, really quickly, and then we'll move on to the cloud platform and how you can integrate this with UI5 apps, some cool services that reside in the cloud, and also this Slipstream service.
Yep, so as Dan mentioned, it sits within your core ERP. On a basic level, what it is it's 3 levels of it. There's your GUI, your standard GUI, which you use every day, and then there's the web GUI, which is screen personas, which you can just take copies of the screen and change them around, move fields, hide them. And then there's this 3rd level Slipstream now, which is the same as screen personas, where it's a web GUI, but this is actually uses the same kind of coding language behind the scenes and control libraries as Fiori or UI5 apps, so it just allows it to be more consistent. So just think of screen personas and Slipstream as the same, one and the same, they just look differently. But basically, it's as simple as, it's just your GUI in the browser, which you can then go in and change the screen around. So if I was going to bring down the personas bar here, I can create a new copy of the screen. And it's important to note this does not affect the actual original screen. This is a complete separate copy of the screen that only users you assign to will see them. So it's not going to affect your standard screens of other users using the GUI. So
this is like a low-code development environment, yeah?
It's very much WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get editor. You can see S-Men's probably not a good example because there's not many controls, but you can just go in, select controls, hide them, hide specific buttons. You can add custom fields. I can add a label, text boxes.
So a good example would be, let's take an engineering application where there's a lot of stuff going on the screen. Yeah. So what is it? IW54 create service notification.
Yeah.
So if we took a standard screen, instead, if there was no standard UI5 application in the Fiori library, and we're on ECC6, I could use this technology to build my own app really quickly.
So in this scenario, on my screen, what you can see is it's a standard transaction in the GUI, IW54, create service notification, and you can see there's a lot of fields, a lot of tabs, where in reality, if you're creating a service notification, you'll probably only set a few fields like the function location, the person responsible, the dates, the priorities, description. You wouldn't need all this extra stuff. So in is it Art Attack's before and after? Here's something I did earlier. So this is the same transaction done with a Slipstream designed with these Fiori guidelines in line. So what you can see is this is called a master detail template. This is what you use in Fiori, where you have a list of selection criteria on the left and then detail on the right. So this is the standard transaction, and what you would probably do is you type in a description here, go down to the function location here, choose your function location, and then go and choose your priority, the person responsible, and just start filling out all the fields. So what we've done is we've changed it so all the functional locations that you would originally get from an F4 are now available in a simple scroll down list here, where you can just click them and it would change the data on the right hand side. And as you can see, all the fields that you actually need to enter have just been simplified and arranged in a way where it removes all of the clutter and it's obvious to the user.
So you've applied Fury guidelines to Slipstream, yeah? And the reason being is, if you're going to integrate this onto a cloud platform or even a Fury Launchpad on-prem, when the user clicks on the tiles, they see the same design guidelines.
The user should not know whether, once they click on the tile, on this is the Fury Launchpad, most of you probably already know what this is, but the user should not know when they click a tile whether they're looking at a Slipstream screen or a Fury screen. They should just think, I'm looking at a Fury app. But behind the scenes, no matter what technology, if they get the same results, then, like Dan was saying before, 20 times quicker to deliver a Slipstream app if the business logic already exists, which would in most GUI transactions.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a little flavour. I mean, there you can see that the other hidden gem is the analytics that you can do with some of this stuff. So yeah, of course, if you've got the skill for UI5 apps, which obviously you need some OData skill, which we'll talk about in a little while, and some UI5 skill, you can spend technical time developing analytics. But if you're just running ECC and you want to activate some really nice, simple stuff really, really quickly, then you could go with Slipstream and you can build these analytical chart types.
So that's the beauty of it. Most Slipstream screens, you can just a simple business analyst would be able to create flavors because they know what they want to see on the screen, and because it's so simple as dragging and dropping and hiding, they could create their own apps without the need for this UI5 and OData resource. Whereas you can go a step further. There is capability in personas to, if you are a coder, for example, you can do things like this. Like this is all used in JavaScript and HTML5 to structure data and display it in HTML charts. So you can do, it's not as simple as just dragging and dropping. If you did want something more complex, you could definitely do it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, Kyle. Robin, can you come back to me, or can you share it back to me, Kyle? Yeah, show the...
Yep. Dan, you should be presenter again.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the important thing that we forgot to show you there was the Slipstream. You can emulate and you can see what mobile screen. So you have this thing called adaptive flavors. And again, so anything that you build, you can render that in a mobile based on an adaptive flavor. It's a very, very kind of interesting area that people don't even realize is there. So when we talk about the cloud platform, which we're going to dive into now, what we recommend is a mixture of technologies, all residing on the Fury Launchpad. So if you are already using SAP Fury Launchpad, then you could start using Slipstream and integrating some of those tiles on that Fury Launchpad for a seamless, unified entry point. And we take that kind of ethos into the cloud platform. So to talk about what is a partner-managed cloud, so just to explain. So again, SAP Cloud Platform is quite daunting. Some people, they don't really know what to start. What partner-managed cloud is, it's basically a partner managing the SAP Cloud Platform for that particular customer with typically services and IP. So whether it's their applications, third-party application, they bring something to the table. And that's kind of what we do. We thought it was just getting a little bit too complex. Some customers really don't have the skills sometimes to do some of this stuff, but they want to leverage the technology. So that's why we run Partner Managed Cloud, which is called Bluestonex. And that is basically our services and our apps on top of the SAP Cloud Platform delivered to that particular customer. I won't go through the benefits, but the partner and the customer work together, either designing new apps or deploying standard applications, Slipstream applications, and all the other technology that is available in the cloud, from workflow to APIs to storing data. There's a huge amount of capability, as we spoke about. But that essentially is what Partner Managed Cloud is. To give you an example, these are just some custom apps that we deliver, which is growing month on month. This is just a kind of snapshot of these. And And these apps are delivered along with standard applications, and if you have third-party applications as well, they're all delivered as part of the SAP Cloud Platform. Now, just to very quickly talk through this bit before we get into the kind of the main bulk of the demo, we all have heard of design thinking. Now, what we do for applications specifically is obviously we follow this process, which is a fairly quick process, and it's about understanding, you know, the user need, the enterprise problem, and then defining what that problem is. And then when we get into the kind of ideate or the idea stage, we start building up a catalog of ideas via different techniques such as workshops, but we quite quickly get into a prototype stage. So it might be initially paper prototypes, low fidelity prototypes, and high fidelity prototypes. Now, what we probably do different is we spend a lot of time doing the usability side of things. So we're actually monitoring, observing, checking users' interaction with the product. That actually makes better user experience. So I won't go through all the stages, but the understanding the problem is pretty obvious. A lot of the time, the problem is different depending on who you speak to. So you might get engaged by, you know, stakeholders within the business that they're not involved, or they're not kind of ingrained in that business process. What we like to do is actually, you know, observe and follow the actual user through that journey. So we will go through some of this methodology here, and then from that, then you start building up a picture of what is the scope, what are we trying to achieve here, and then we move on from there into the kind of ideation stage. So mixture of workshops, one-to-one interviews, all that good stuff, coming up with ideas of what does this killer app look like. Clearly, again, from a monetary point of view and a value point of view, you know, if that problem means there is a standard Fiori app already in the Fiori library, you just deploy that standard Fiori app to your landscape. This is more probably relating to applications or business scenarios that are completely new. You are disrupting kind of your business landscape, and this is where this technology and this methodology works really well. So you start coming up with ideas, and as I said, you quickly get into using some of these things. So good old pencil and paper, right? We would start wireframing ideas, coming up with what that app would look like based on our kind of Fiori guidelines, and then we would put that typically into build. So build, for those of you who don't know, again, it's a web-based tool to help you start innovating and designing applications. So you could literally take pictures of your pen and paper, your wireframe, put it into build, and you will have a moving kind of prototype. And then from there, we would probably move very quickly into Web IDE, but also into Photoshop, because we will produce high fidelity prototypes that we can put then to stakeholders because they might want to review the business case associated with it. So this is a really kind of useful lesson. You would do this when you start moving into that cloud platform. You would do this if you have Gateway on-premise with Fiori apps on-prem and you want to come up with something new. You would go through this exact process. And it's the same when you get to the testing stage. So again, you know, our rule really, don't tell, just show what you've got. You get better interaction, you get a better product at the end of it. So testing the product, I'll send these slides on so people can have a look. But this is the kind of usability piece that is the interesting part, really. So if you build a great app or a great application, you shouldn't really have to put reams and reams of training documentation together. You know, take Apple as a classic example. You buy something new from Apple, you don't get a user instruction guide. You know, typically it's intuitive, you know how it works. And that's really what you should be aiming for in some of the applications that you're developing in the cloud platform. So there's lots of bits to it. Again, I won't go through it in detail here. Okay, and then just finally, before we jump in, human-centered design. That is design thinking, but a lot more fluffy. It's typically used not so much in app design, but solving bigger problems. So some famous organizations that use this technique. Again, not going to go through it, but it's there. It's really, really good reading, especially when you start innovating via the SAP Cloud Platform. Okay, so demo. Let me log in here. I think I'm going to have to end that and make sure I refresh. So you guys still seeing my my screen, yeah? Okay, so first thing to note, Cloud Platform, let's just refresh and refresh a couple of screens. Okay, so this is a Cloud Platform. So what we're trying to say, to start off small, and as an example, if you are spending money on Fury Gateway, you've got on-prem servers and stuff like that, this is a great place to start because you can immediately start saving money, move to the latest UI5 libraries, so you get new functionality without doing too much, if anything at all, with your back-end systems. So you can see here as a user, I've got a bunch of stuff relevant for me. I've got some stuff to do with master data management, which again, these are our applications. I've got some engineering apps. I've got some purchasing apps. So the purchasing apps, there's just a few here. Okay, so let me just open this one up and see what my Wi-Fi is like. So this is a standard app. Okay, so this is a standard app, 3CC6, and it's PO release. So instead of ME28, I could deploy a standard Fury app. So again, on the left-hand side, I've got my purchase orders. They've all come into me via workflow, and I've got the option of approving, rejecting, all that type of stuff. So again, the same with release recs. We've created some custom ones around purchasing. I'll come back to these in a little while. But you get the idea. If within that Fury library, there is a standard application, just deploy it. It's kind of 1 to 2 days to deploy an app. And then obviously you go through your testing cycles and things like that. So the standard apps, we would always say, if it does what you need, if it does what it says on the tin, use it. So the standard apps, obviously what we were talking about with the standard apps, we also have, so we've got the UI5 applications on here, but we might have as well slipstream apps. So again, you know, you've got UI5, you've got slipstream apps. Users shouldn't know, shouldn't care on that, okay? I've just come through my custom ones because I need some detail here. So just to give you some examples, if you're in ECC6 and you want to deploy some apps, you'll look through the catalog. A classic one would be goods receipt. Goods receipt is not a standard application for ECC6. There are some applications there for S4, but not for ECC6. So an example would be we have custom apps. I'm just going to grab a purchase order here. So this is goods receipt for purchase order. I could scan in, execute it. I could see the header details in here and line items. So again, it's a really simple app, but we're leveraging the cloud platform to kind of host the app there. It's connected to the backend system, and it's one of our custom applications that you can just get up and run in very quickly. Believe it or not, it looks very simple, but it's quite hard to create a simple app because people always try and over-engineer it. So what you have is purchase order, which is scanned in. You've got some header information about that vendor and all that good stuff. And then you've got the line items. And again, from a user point of view, all we're doing here, we're marking things okay. We've got delivery complete indicator like you would normally in some of the standard apps, and you'd be posting it. And that's it. Standard kind of application. So we've looked at some of the gaps. So we've got goods receipt. It could be physical inventory. So this is an IM physical inventory. Again, typically MI transactions, I think they are in SAP GUI. And what we've done, again, create a simple application to push the count to a user. The user would typically be using an iPad or a tablet or something like that. And they could go and they could count their store for an IM location. For all the WM transactions and things like that, again, we'd probably leverage Slipstream because all the standard transactions work. They just need tidying up. So again, it's just an example of things that you can do with the cloud platform and custom applications and standard applications. Again, engineering. So for those of you that know engineering, you could have works orders down the left-hand side, and here I might have information regarding that that works order, and I might just want to do some goods movement straight from, you know, my confirmation of a works order. So the great thing about the SAP UI5 stuff is if you're coming up with kind of new business scenarios or a killer app, i.e. I need an app to do works order confirmations, but at the same time I might want to update my works order, I might want to do goods movement, goods issue, good returns. That's where you would use SAP UI5, and as part of the cloud platform we have a lot of these apps already there for kind of people to use. Now they're the kind of standard stuff around physical inventory and things like that. Now just getting on to APIs, hopefully my screen, sorry, is it there? Yeah, APIs. So in terms of the APIs themselves, so what we're kind of saying here, to me, as I'm not a technical guy, right, so this is kind of interfacing, this is kind of application programming interface, allowing a system to communicate with another. Now in the cloud platform, there is an API hub. So immediately you can leverage some of those standard APIs, or you can write your own quite quickly. So you can start communicating and passing information to other systems. Now, obviously, there are the standard kind of functions around iDocs and all that sort of stuff that you could use. This is just another way to do it, which we think is quite cost effective because it's a lot quicker to kind of start moving on this kind of technology. And as I said, there are a set of functions and procedures in the API hub that you can kind of get your hands on immediately. Now I'll show you an example of that just very quickly. So again, I'm going to relate this back to master data, okay? So we have a solution where it might be, let's take for example, Salesforce has a prospect, and obviously you want to create a customer master off the back of that prospect because it's a win. So you have some customer details in Salesforce, and you want to pass that across to either a third-party application, or it could be master data governance, or it could be our solution. But the point is, it will be an API that passes some of that information. Now, within SAP itself, you might want to run some checks. So this is just an example of an API. So you might have some information around addresses that come in, and some of these fields would get populated. Get populated with a postcode, and it might simply be that you want to check that address. So the address that has been passed to me, I want to check it. So I would use an API that is actually calling an API. I think this one was by a company called Ideal Postcode, I think it is. But there are hundreds of these APIs that you can start consuming in the cloud platform. So whether it's address checkers, or if you can imagine you're setting up a new customer or a new vendor and you want to check banking information, then you would use an API to check that bank rather than somebody manually making some phone calls or using Google to find out, is this correct? So there's a whole bunch of governance around APIs, and there's some standard ones there which we kind of consume. So we think that whole API thing is really good. And then finally, in terms of other stuff, is around collaboration. So obviously we've got the portal here, which is Fury Launchpad as well. Okay, but if you can imagine, do you want to start interacting with could be vendors, could be customers? What we've actually done here, so if you remember the architecture, so we have the SAP Cloud Platform, and we also have the SAP HANA DB services, which allows me to store information outside of SAP. So here we bought we bought the HANA DB service, and what we have here is like a registration for a vendor. So in this example, vendor wants to do some onboarding, register via the URL that would get sent to them from the system, and then that vendor would log in once they've registered. And again, we're using SAP UI5 technology in here, but you can see here, this could be the example where the vendor needs to get onboarded instead of you sending him an email or a spreadsheet that he populates and sends back to you and you key in, he would just directly enter the cloud platform, update the details here in this UI5 application. This would store it in the HANA DB. And from there, that HANA DB would pass that information back to your ERP for review. Okay, so that's another really nice bit of technology around HANA DB. Yeah, so there's all sorts of nice stuff that you can do here, again, from the cloud platform. Now, just finally, conscious of time, so this application, again, on the SAP Cloud Platform, let me just refresh it. So this is something we developed for our offices. As you remember, our design office has quite a few people come in and go in. We have a staff register, so people can sign in, sign out. Okay, so real simple. But you can also then start integrating some of the other cloud technologies like IoT. So example, fire alarm goes off, fire alarm could print or send an alert. This would be available on iPhone as well. But you've got a staff list, who's in, who's out. We've recently started work with one particular customer integrating SuccessFactors in here. So the staff list is actually updated from SuccessFactors. Again, so really nice. But this is an app that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your back-end ERP. And that's the point. And this opens up the opportunity to start removing peripheral databases across your landscape. So again, if you wanted a visitor app on reception, so people need to come and go, they'd enter their detail here, put who they're meeting. So I'm going to send something to Kyle. We could take pictures. I'm not going to show you my face there, but we've got some health and safety stuff, but they're basically going to sign in. Okay, once they've signed in, they're there. Email would get sent to the host. Host would come and collect it from reception. Again, we use design thinking for this particular application, but the point is it's got nothing to do with SAP. So the cloud platform is this enabler for kind of innovation. Again, I'll just sign out here of this one. So as you can see, you can make some really nice UI5 apps sitting in the cloud platform, but using different services. This one in particular is using the HANA database. So I've just come back to my PowerPoint because I'm short on time. So as you can see, you can do all sorts of collaboration there, and we're building apps now outside of SAP. Even though we're using SAP technology, yeah, that's kind of what we're doing. Just a couple of examples. I think one of the customers might be on here. So the visitor app that I just showed you, that was kind of their foot in the door for using the SAP Cloud Platform, visitor and contract management and staff management and stuff. So that's a really kind of nice, simple application that those guys are dipping their toe in the water. And obviously, Eurocell, again, I don't think Wayne is able on the call today, but we're using a mixture of what you've seen on the Launchpad there of different apps with different technologies beneath, but a consistent look and feel. So I rattled through that very, very quickly, and I'm conscious of time. I'm going to come back to you, Robin, if that's okay, just to see if there has been any questions, because I know I've flown through that. We've covered a lot of stuff, but I wanted to break it down, make it quite easy to understand on what you could use the SAP Cloud Platform for, and where you could start. So Robin, I'll come back to you if that's okay, if there are any questions.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thank you, Dan. If anyone does have any further questions, there is the Q&A tool, which is on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. We've had a couple of questions come through just on the separate chat. So the first one was, what are the main benefits of moving to the cloud?
Okay, so main benefits for me, it depends on your kind of your appetite and your requirement. But for us, if you want to get at UI5 and SAP Fiori apps, it's an obvious place to start because you have the newest version of the UI5 library there. So you're not really reliant on upgrades or updating components within your backend system. So that would be number one. So people save money by moving to the cloud and kind of drop in their Fiori Launchpad on-prem. That's one area. Second one is this whole bunch of services, as you can see on my screen there. There is tons of stuff, and all we've really shown you today is a little bit of data management, some UI5 applications, which obviously comes into mobile. There's some master data stuff in there, and there's some collaboration. So we've just skimmed the surface just to kind of give you a simple view on the world, but there is tons of stuff there. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of analytics, machine learning, conversational UI stuff, chatbots, huge amounts of stuff there, all available in the cloud platform. Obviously, each one of them will be individual services and they're priced differently, but that's kind of the main benefits, I would say. You know, from a business point of view, you're able to you kind of, without disrupting your core ERP, come up with these killer apps and killer new business scenarios.
Okay, thank you. And then we've had another one that's come through as well. What are the requirements for the back-end system to connect to the cloud?
Well, typically, I'll throw it back over to the technical team here as well, but typically it would be Cloud Connector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to add to that, it's not just SAP systems. It could be any backend systems that can be connected to the cloud platform using this Cloud Connector.
Yeah. So again, what we were showing you, 99% of those apps on there, we're connected to an SAP system, but that Fiori Launchpad could be connecting to other applications. It could be a Sage system, could be Salesforce, could be whatever. You could have that UI5 layer on top, connecting to those back-end systems for that consistent look and feel. But typically, Cloud Connector is the thing that will enable you to connect from the cloud to a multitude of kind of systems.
Okay. And then can you explain why we would go for a partner-managed cloud over SAP Cloud Platform?
Yeah, it's a good question. Why would you? Well, as I said, I think what we deliver is on top of the SAP Cloud Platform, but what we're actually adding value is expertise on the architecture, the services, but also we have a catalog of kind of apps. And that's kind of, we feel that the SAP Cloud Platform is still quite a new area. Services are coming to market and are still quite bleeding edge. We're kind of on top of that. So the whole partner managed cloud, we take a lot of that pain away. We have that agreement with SAP. You have that agreement with us. We look after those services and applications for you.
Fantastic. And then there's another one that's come through as well. You mentioned slipstream screen personas. Is this something new in the cloud?
Right, okay, so just to explain, so slipstream is something that you can activate on-premise. You don't even have to go to the cloud, right? So you activate screen personas or slipstream on your ECC or S4 box, okay? And then you could launch those applications via a URL. So that's been there Slipstream's been there for a good 12, 18 months, is that right?
December, January last year.
Yeah. So it's been there around 18 months or so. What we're doing is we're surfacing those apps in the cloud along with all the other UI5 applications. So it's been there a while, but it's not dependent on the cloud. You can run that on-premise if you wanted to.
Okay, and then we've got one final question. So just for anyone else, if you'd like to have submit your Q&As, there is a Q&A tool in the bottom right-hand corner. So the final question that we've got is, what other services are available on the SAP Cloud Platform?
Yeah, I think I covered it. There are tons, and again, I will send the list, but if I just share again, I'm going to share my screen here. You can see as I come down here, all the different kind of services and capabilities that you have within the cloud platform. It is massive. So if you if you thought of an idea or a service that you needed that wasn't here, I would be amazed, to be honest, because it covers everything, all these services and capabilities down the left-hand side. And as I said, when you click on a kind of capability, there are lots of different services within it. So huge amounts of stuff in there, as you can see on my screen here, and that's available for you guys just to kind of Google and have a look. So what we're doing, as I said, we're giving you the SAP Cloud Platform, but with kind of expertise and a catalog or a suite of applications and expertise on top.
Right, okay, fantastic. And then we have another question that's come in. Is there a minimum enhancement pack level required for slipstream service use on the ECC?
Yeah, so for slipstream, Kyle, I did have the prerequisites here. Let me just check, see if you've got it. So there is a minimum, there are dependencies around kernel and basis level, but we can share that straight after the screen, straight after the share. I'm just seeing if I can dig it out now and share it. Yeah, hang on a second. So yeah, there are some minimum SAP. Do you want to share that screen, Carl?
Yeah.
Could you just give Kyle back presenter rights, and he'll just share the document that we publish. I think you'll find this on our website anyway, but you can see here there are some requirements there: basis level and service pack, and then the kernel is the other thing. Now, obviously, to get at all the new mobile stuff, that resides on SP6 or above, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this what you see on the matrix you see on the screen now is for SP7, so it's a good kind of middleware. Yeah. SP6 is the minimum for slipstream. SP8 is the newest one, with SP9 coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
But SP7 is anything. This is basically the minimum sort of spec. If you got these, you can have any service pack from 6 and above.
Yeah, but if anybody has got any questions, I think I've got my contact details at the end. But I think this information is on our website anyway, under screen personas, under services.
Okay, wonderful. So that's all the questions that we've had for today.
Okay, we bang on the hour then.
We'll bang on the hour, yes. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon for our Bluestonex webinar. Recording will be available on the website.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.